Picture this. One leader jails 65 of his own top officials in a single year, but right next door, dynasties quietly siphon off billions, with barely a slap on the wrist. This isn't just a simple fight between heroes and villains. It's a clash of superpower, crackdowns, and hereditary empires. Welcome to our deep dive into Asia's corruption wars.
You know, that tension you're describing is exactly what's electrifying streets from Beijing to Manila. I'm here as an Asia-Pacific corruption analyst, and today we'll tackle the real question. Is China's ruthless anti-corruption campaign a genuine fix or just power consolidation?
We'll also unpack how India's murky campaign donations keep changing shape, why Southeast Asian dynasties are under fire from meme-wielding Gen Z, and what's brewing behind closed doors in Central Asia's clan-run states.
Plus, we'll look ahead: can youth anger, the courts, or actual reform shake loose Asia's elite grip before 2030? If you want to understand the real battle lines, stick around for the next hour.
Let's start with China, because the scale of Xi Jinping's anti-corruption machine is honestly wild. In 2025 alone, 65 high-ranking tigers got taken down: bankers, generals, even long-term loyalists. That's not counting the lower-level flies.
It's staggering, but what really stands out is how targeted these crackdowns are. Xi's campaign stretches from finance to the military, even chasing assets overseas now. He's made it loud and clear: nobody is safe, not even inner-circle allies.
Still, critics argue it's not just about cleaning up. There's this undertone that it's as much about eliminating rivals as about justice. Loyalty becomes survival, and the party keeps hold of everything, from state companies to the media.
Exactly. And if you look at the numbers, China's global corruption score, still stuck at 43 out of 100, suggests that while there are fewer street-level bribes, the top layers remain untouchable. The question is, can this top-down model ever change the system itself?
Switching gears, in India, the corruption game looks totally different. When the Supreme Court killed off those opaque electoral bonds last year, everyone hoped for more transparency and political money. But what happened?
Unfortunately, the money just found a new route. Now it's all about electoral trusts, supercharged by corporate giants. The ruling party, BJP, captured over 80% of major donations in 2024-25. It's a new system, but the same old shadowy flows.
And behind the scenes, there's that Chandado Dhandalo logic: donate cash, get business perks. Shell companies pop up, regulatory favors get handed out, and meanwhile, opposition parties are left scrounging.
That's fueling real anger on the ground. Gen Z and civil groups are tracking every rupee, posting donor data online, and demanding full transparency. The big question? Whether that pressure can actually force deeper reform, or if the system just keeps morphing.
Funny you mention youth pressure, because nowhere is that more visible than in Southeast Asia. Dynasties rule the roost. Think the Marcos and Duterte clans in the Philippines, or the Shinawatra family in Thailand.
Absolutely, and it's a powder keg. In 2025, Manila saw protests over flood control projects bleeding away billions, with politicians doubling as contractors. Online, Gen Z's memes and hashtags tore into Nepo babies and corrupt deals.
The anti-dynasty bill in the Philippines has become a real political battlefield. And Indonesia? Prabowo, Suharto's son-in-law, is president. Old power networks just don new faces.
Malaysia's got a twist too. The government targets select rivals for corruption, but dynastic influence keeps thriving in the background. What's changing is that young people aren't buying the old excuse of family rule equals stability anymore. They want results and integrity.
That actually reminds me of the situation in Central Asia where, instead of dynasties, it's all about clans and old Soviet-era networks. Transparency scores there are rock bottom, with countries like Kyrgyzstan and Turkmenistan barely clearing 20 out of 100.
And what you see is a surface show of reform, anti-corruption conferences, new agencies, but real power stays locked in family and clan ties. Kazakhstan even folded its anti-corruption body under the security services, making oversight weaker.
Journalists who dig too deep into graft risk harassment or worse, and in Tajikistan or Turkmenistan, the public has almost no voice. It's a cycle where reforms look good on paper, but everyday reality is still controlled by patronage and repression.
The frustration is boiling under heavy surveillance. Young people want change, but fear is real, and unless institutions open up, the same old networks will keep their grip for years.
Looking ahead, it feels like we're at a crossroads. Will China's playbook spread, and will dynasties just adapt by getting better at hiding their tracks? Or can youth-led pressure and judicial action actually break through?
There are three real scenarios. Selective purges become the norm, and CPI scores flatline. Oligarchs dig in, fueling inequality and unrest. Or most hopefully, we see a wave of reforms led by civic movements, stronger courts, and full funding transparency.
Singapore, Bhutan, and Taiwan show it's possible. Singapore's score of 84 proves that strong institutions and oversight can work. But for most of Asia, the fight is far from over.
What gives me hope is that Gen Z, with their tech savvy and impatience for excuses, aren't backing down. If they keep the pressure up, and if reformers in government listen, we might finally see a real shift by 2030.
Let's wrap up with what really matters. First, China's anti-corruption blitz has changed the game, but questions of true accountability versus power grabs remain.
Second, the money maze in places like India and Southeast Asia proves that when one loophole closes, another opens unless reforms go deep and stay public.
Third, Gen Z protest energy is shaking old structures, from Manila to Central Asia, but real change needs courts, watchdogs, and transparent funding, not just street protests.
So here's a challenge for listeners. Go online, share the name of an anti-corruption fighter or reform you admire, whether it's a Philippine flood activist, an Indian transparency crusader, or a Central Asian journalist. Let's celebrate the ones pushing for a cleaner future.
Thanks for tuning in. Keep the conversation going. And remember, real change comes when all of us demand it, not just the brave few.